Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Reinvent Yourself with Rei Rei. Of course, I'm Rei Rei, and I'm sorry that it's been a while since I posted a video. I've been dealing with a lot of sinuses issues, but they seem to be clearing up now, so I'm back. So let's get into it. Now, on the last poll that I posted on my channel, you guys voted for the video about Starseed, so here we go. So, what are star seeds? A lot of people in spiritual communities nowadays, and especially online, claim to be star seeds. But it's important to know what a star seed actually is, as opposed to what a star seed isn't, okay? Because there are a lot of misconceptions within this community in relation to how the soul works and the structure of existence itself, okay? So, a lot of people talk about starseed origins, right? This terminology is being, floundered about everywhere without people actually understanding the true nature of consciousness. Consciousness in its pure state is beyond time. Consciousness has no beginning and end because existence has no beginning and end, even though our physicists claim that this universe is around 13 to 14 billion years old. You know, that just may be this universe. There are multiple universes, there are many universes, an infinite number actually. There is a multiverse that is transcendent of this universe, and consciousness is the fabric of existence itself. Consciousness is beyond time. Thus, if your soul, if your true self is a consciousness, then how can your soul have an origin? It's just not possible. The word origin means beginnings. So when you're speaking about an origin of something, you're talking about something that is conceptualized or defined in relative terms of time, beginning, ending, etc. Because if something has a beginning or origin, then it must also have an ending. And our consciousness does not have a beginning or an end. It is transcendent of time. Our true self is non-linear, non-local, omnipresent. It is one with the totality of existence itself. It is the ocean of existence. Okay, so get that out of your head first and foremost. A lot of people in the Starseed community walk around, well, they don't walk around, but, but they post stuff online saying, oh, yeah, well, I'm Syrian or I'm from Lyra or I'm, Arcturian, that's my origins, etc. Completely negating the human experience in the first place. Which doesn't make any sense at all. You're a human being in the present moment. That's the most important life that you have in your oversoul collective. Okay. Never negate the human experience that you're having, because the human experience you're living is just as valuable and important as to all of the other forms that you've taken on, during your existence, which is, incomprehensible when you're speaking of, or you're trying to measure it in terms of time. If the soul, it really is beyond time, okay, then that must mean that all of our past and future selves, all of our past lives and future lives, they must all exist simultaneously. However, from the level of the individual soul, let's just say, for example, me, Craig, that's my real name, right? Me, I'm Craig, right? And Craig has his own oversoul, but he also has his own individual soul. And Craig's individual soul has a greater self, which is known as the oversoul. And the oversoul is that greater aspect of ourselves that experiences all of our lives simultaneously from the perspective of spirit. But even the individualized soul is still beyond time as well. Okay, this is a little tricky to get you to wrap your mind around initially, so stay with me. The oversoul is conscious of all of its lives simultaneously, and whenever one becomes a master, whenever one masters themselves and really transcends all the limitations this physical reality has to impose upon them, that's what a lot of the yogis have done. For example, they become the oversoul itself, walking in flesh and blood. They're aware of all of their lives on the earth or in other planets as well. Okay, so you can't possibly have an origins if you are experiencing multiple lives, well, not multiple, but countless lives, many different time periods, in countless forms as well. So you're many things simultaneously. Don't just limit yourself to one particular form. Okay, you may be, Pleiadian in a future or a past life that exists in the here and now, but you're still human as well. And you may also have Arcturian connections. You may also have Syrian connections, for example. There are many different races who are interacting with the Earth right now. And of course, if you do believe in the concept of reincarnation, which again is a time-bound concept because all lives exist simultaneously. They just seem to appear or to manifest in a sequence while we're living in this physical domain, which is bound by the illusion of space and time. But if you believe in that concept, then, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday with Neil deGrasse Tyson with Sam Harris speaking about whether we're alone in the universe or not. And it was an interesting discussion, but I've had experiences with other entities from different star systems. So I'm not just, teaching on hearsay here. I know from experience, and I can't expect some people who haven't had those kind of experiences to just out and out believe. Of course, it's important to be skeptical, especially in this field, because there's a lot of disinformation going around. However, deGrasse Tyson did say that the Earth is roughly around 4.5 billion years old, and that really the microbes of life that began to develop, the life that we have evolved into, only began to really manifest around 300 million years. Well, was it 300 million years ago? I'm not sure on the exact number. But anyway, my point in bringing this up is that if consciousness is eternal, beyond time, like I keep saying, then of course 4.5 billion years compared to that is just a blink of an eye. And if you've had countless forms, then isn't it a bit far-fetched to imagine that all of those forms would just solely belong to the Earth? Of course, you've lived on other planets before. Of course, you will continue to live on other planets after the Earth has also exhausted itself, or whether from the perspective of spirit that you choose to go to a different planet after this life, it's just up to you, of course. But what I'm saying is your consciousness itself, your oversoul and your soul are really, I don't even want to say they're older than the Earth because they're beyond time. It's really incomprehensible when you're speaking from a time-bound perspective or from a time-bound ego. Like we all have an ego as we have a physical body, and to wrap your mind around that is a little bit tricky initially, of course, but, it's true. Thus, we do have then many different experiences within the greater network of our oversoul collective. Just imagine the oversoul as a great big sphere of light, okay? And within that sphere of light, there's lots of lines that crisscross and crisscross, creating a sort of like web within it, just a web of pure light. And each of those lines within that sphere are indicative of one incarnation. And some of the lines touch each other. Some of the lines connect to each other. Some of them don't. Now, the lines that connect to your particular line in your oversoul are the lives that you're plugged into subconsciously. What do I mean by plugged into? I mean that you're mirroring their experiences and their persona and their traits and their tendencies, and vice versa. They're also doing the same with you. Because really they're just different aspects of yourselves, maybe of yourself. Maybe they're in the same time period as you, or maybe they're from different time periods. Like I've had experiences with my future self from Sirius, for example. And I knew instantly when I first saw him that I was looking at another version of myself. There was no fear whatsoever. There was just a deep recognition that, oh, this is me. I just knew it. Like I can't even really put it into words, the feeling. It's just completely beyond anything that I can explain with words. But anyway, and even in astrology, for example, I'm an astrologer too. In astrology, the South Node is indicative of, so-called past lives. But again, we're only using the words past and future to give us reference points in the, in the domain of this universe, which is bound by time. It's not really, doesn't really exist, but we can still use it when we know its place, But anyway, a lot of astrologers believe that we're bringing in tendencies from our past lives into this life, and they can be good qualities and they can also be negative and limiting qualities as well, and that we derive those qualities as a result of a sort of karmic continuation from past lives, and we're bringing them into this life. On one level that is true, but on another it's not, because what's actually happening is, remember, you're your own person, you're your own individual soul. Every being within your oversoul has their own individualized soul, so they're still their own person. Okay, so from a oversoul perspective, they are other aspects of you, but from an individual soul level, they're not. And this includes your extraterrestrial connections as well. Okay, but anyway, what I want to say is, what's going on there is, you're mirroring one another. That's why there seems to be a continuation of certain habits and tendencies, because you're plugged into that being and you're mirroring their behavior. And that's what happens with when two souls crisscross one another, they're plugged into each other. Bashar calls it cross-connecting, connecting subconsciously to another aspect of your oversoul. Okay. So what is a starseed then? That's the question that I was going to answer, and I went on a bit of a tangent, but I'm glad I did, because this point can be driven home a lot clearer now. A starseed is a person, right, who is aware of the fact that they have extraterrestrial incarnations within their oversoul collective. Well, this may sound contradictory, because I did say that everyone pretty much has them at the beginning of the video, and they do. Everyone in that sense is a starseed. I've looked at hundreds of charts in the last year doing starseed readings, astrology readings, okay? And there hasn't been one chart that I've seen that doesn't have connections to 5 of the main races that I connect to. And that's only 5. There's plenty more races. That's only a slither of the races in our galaxy alone. Not even a slither of them. Literally a minuscule of them. I don't know what the word is. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that this isn't everybody's focus in this life. Most people on this planet right now, even though they may have extraterrestrial connections, simply aren't interested in the subject matter. They're simply, not even interested in expanding their consciousness. They just want to live a normal life, have fun, and do whatever they want to do. Not judging them. That's their life. They can do whatever they want, but like, only a small percentage of the population are actually aware of the fact that they have these connections from other star systems. And those are the starseeds, okay? Those are really the starseeds. Even though everyone really is a starseed, the activated ones are the ones who a lot of people, like to call themselves as starseeds. That's really who they're referring to, okay? Now, it's interesting because Bashar also says this. He says, whenever we have contact with an extraterrestrial being, it's 99.999% chance of being another aspect of ourselves. We're very, very likely to share the same oversoul as those beings. Okay. And it's my belief and my experience, actually. My experience has shown me that our extraterrestrial selves who are interacting with the Earth right now, and the main races are, the Arcturians, the Syrians, the Pleiadians, the Lyrans, some of the Orion races, the hybrid children, the Yael, the Greys, etc. Like, all of these races who are interacting with Earth, if you've got different aspects of your oversoul connected to you through those races. So what I'm saying is, if you've got let's say, for example, a Pleiadian self in your oversoul who is interacting with the earth and is helping the earth in unseen ways, then it's likely that they've been assigned to you. Okay, they have been assigned to you to help expand your consciousness, to send you messages in your dreams, even visit you, even have contact experiences with you, because contact is occurring now. Disclosure is happening, but it's just happening in a very subtle way to the people who are actually ready to have those experiences, because obviously, evidently, most people aren't. Most people are too attached to their religious beliefs, or even their scientific beliefs won't really allow them to open up to the possibility that they're connected to things that they couldn't even comprehend on a soul level. So those are the starseeds. Okay, they're the people who are assigned to beings who are working for those races who are interacting with the earth right now. And there is a communication going on between those two lives in the same oversoul. Sometimes it's just a subconscious communication. Other times, like I just said, you may receive messages in dreams, etc. It just depends really on the individual's experience. I mean, it's different for everyone, of course. It can manifest in countless ways. But yeah. And this brings me really to the readings that I do. Like I just said, I am an astrologer. I've been studying astrology now for over a dozen years. So I think I'm in my 13th year now, which is a good number, of course. And I've been doing these readings for a while now. And a lot of people think that I'm just there to tell them what their connections are and send them on the merry way. No, that's not the point of my readings. My readings, really the gist of it is to help you become aware of your already existing connections, because the natal chart does show those connections that you are crisscrossing within your oversoul. Of course, the one natal chart can't possibly, tell you all of the lives that you've ever had in an oversoul. It's just not possible. Too much information, and it would take a long time to try and decipher that. I only work with 5 or 6 races in my readings because they're the ones I'm aware of. They're the ones I know. I don't really like to speak about things that I don't know, or teach about things I don't know. That's not a sign of a good teacher or astrologer. So I tend to know my limitations in that regard. But really what I do is I help you become aware of those already existing connections that you have. And because you're already connected to them, they've already been subtly influencing you because you're plugged into them subconsciously, like I just said. Yeah. And what my reading will help you do is, instead of just enabling that connection to be subconscious and really automatic in some ways and unknown, you can shift that to a more conscious connection. And then you can utilize the meditation technique that comes with the readings in order to initiate contact with them yourself. Stephen Greer calls this CE5. This is more like an inner CE5, because CE5 really is, about going out under the stars and, remote viewing and connecting to these beings, through a meditative state. And that's a beautiful thing. I've done it many times successfully myself. It definitely works. But in my experience, the most profound experiences and the most profound contact experiences that I've had have been within myself, within my own consciousness, because the universe itself is folded within us. All of the beings in the entire universe are within us. The universe is holographic in nature. Each drop of the ocean contains the entire ocean. It's important to know that really the truth isn't out there like the X-Files told you to believe. The truth is within yourself, okay? So revert your focus in yourself and understand that if you can match the frequency of these civilizations, then you're definitely capable. You're definitely capable of initiating contact with them, okay? And receiving downloads, guidance, insights. There's been so many of my clients who have had this type of reading, and I've guided them through the process of doing that really inner CE5, you know, and they're having amazing experiences with different facets of that oversoul collective from other star systems. And really, that's the whole point of me doing those types of readings, because I just want other people to have the same kind of multidimensional experiences that I've had. I've been having them since 2010 now. And yeah, this will accelerate the ascension process of the collective consciousness. The more people who become consciously aware of their already existing ET connections, parallel lives, like I like to call them, because it doesn't matter whether your Pleiadian self, for example, is a past self or a future self or a present self. They're all accessible now. Okay. They're all accessible now. If they're highly evolved spiritual beings, then they'll know when you're focusing your intention upon them, and they will answer that call in whatever way suits you best. Of course, the contact may seem a little slower first, and that's because you've got to acclimate to the higher frequencies of their energy. You've got to meet them halfway up the vibrational ladder in order to initiate contact with them. But once you do that, then it all just flows really nice. It flows really nicely. Okay. So that's just a little bit about what starseeds are, and really just about, you know, the structure of the oversoul itself, and also dispelling this whole starseed origins concept, because it really is BS. I don't want to swear on camera, but it really is BS. And a lot of people who are selling others these starseed origins readings are really just misleading people. And it's a real shame that, you know, I mean, it's the internet. What can you expect? What you'd expect? But yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to post the link to my readings and a blog which contains all the information about the readings down below. Please like and subscribe this video if you found it useful as well. And I'll be back soon with another video. Peace for now. Later.